TitleMatchNetwork.com.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, because when Scott was there, he was the one who beat Scott.
Oh, yeah, okay, that's right.
Well, there was no Kliq without the kid.
Right, that's
that
true.
It wouldn't be complete, I don't think.
What is the biggest misconception about the whole entire Kliq? And, you've heard stories. Well, what's the biggest misconception about the Kliq, first of all?
I think the biggest misconception is the power.
Right.
I used to love when guys would be handing around the dirt sheet and they'd see, like, I love seeing my name or the Kliq or that stuff and have the word power next to it. Because in the wrestling business, power is really a guy that makes suggestions to the boss and he likes them.
Right.
And he uses them. And that's really what it is. You just go to him and go, hey, I got an idea for an angle.
Right.
And we had an idea for an angle for the ladder match, and they did it, and it turned out to be great. No one really said, oh, Shawn's power did that, because I hadn't quite gotten, I wasn't over that time. So all that stuff comes with, once you get on top, but we used to make suggestions for other people too, all the time.
Right.
I can remember that little Candido couldn't stand us, but we used to make suggestions for him all the time.
I was going to ask you about that. Because he said you guys ran him out.
No, I mean, most of them guys, the Shanes, the Candidos, and even Brett, it's paranoia, most of them. And it's not being able to look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what, either I'm losing it or I don't have it, or, something's not flying right, because it's not anything that we ever did. We, me or Kevin, we can't run nobody out. That's Vince's decision, and most of the time what bothers Vince the most is the guys that get caught up in that crap.
Right.
But he was the one that, he used to ask us, he used to call me when I was at home, hey, give me some, some ideas and stuff like that. I mean, there was a time when, before the whole Kliq thing, when I was up in Stanford actually writing the Raws, but nobody said I had power then.
Right.
Because I wasn't on top and I didn't have these other, we all didn't hang around together. And it's, I can remember, Lex Luger's the guy that gave us that name. It was, I don't know, it was just funny because, you think to yourself, I mean, to me, it's just me hanging out with my buddies and us going to the boss and making suggestions and him liking them. But then with the whole wrestling underground media and the boys, again, in this business is the biggest denial rate of any business around. And none of these guys want to admit that, maybe I'm not talented. Maybe I'm not as talented as that guy. Maybe I don't have as good of ideas as that guy. And, that's all we did. All we did is eat, sleep, and drink wrestling. Me, Kevin, and Scott, we were never home. We were always having to do extra stuff.
Right.
So what else were we going to do except talk about the wrestling business, because it consumed our lives at that point.
Shane, we did an interview with Shane. He said he had a match with Scott somewhere. I forgot what town it was. And he said that sometimes Scott would, I guess, purposely, make him look bad and then go back to the road agents and, tell him that, he's not a good worker or whatever, and stuff like that.
Right. Well, when I heard that happen was when they were over in Europe, and I wasn't there.
Right. That's exactly where it was.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't there on that. And that's the thing that, and that's where Shane's, because Shane's a smart kid. Most stuff, like, he only worked with me once.
Right.
And mostly he and Scott were together, and Scott, in his opinion, he's the guy that buried him, but he always used my name because Scott Hall is not a big enough name, and because I was always the closest one to Vince, so then he eventually used me and just went to drum on me because more people would notice that.
Right.
Hey, he's a smart guy, But I find it, I mean, I don't know that it'd happen if it did or it didn't. Only the guys that were there on that tour could tell you. But I find it hard to believe because Scott's not going to have a match that stinks on purpose because it's only going to bury him.
Right.
What I do know is that Shane, whatever it was that he had in ECW, he didn't have in WWF. He was not good. He didn't, I mean, like I said, I don't know what it was he had there. And as I've seen older tapes, best I can tell is that he was just allowed to cuss and use the word fuck and ass and shit like that. And that's not a good interview. That's just easy. It's called cheap heat, cheap pops. That's like nut shots and stuff like that. That's not good interviews. And being a good worker isn't throwing a guy through a table and stuff like that. It's knowing how to work. It's knowing how to get to people without having to do that stuff. Where he put the nail in his coffin. And again, I wasn't there either. It was in Madison Square Garden, and I heard Vince told me, that he wouldn't work on the Garden because he said his back hurt him a little bit. And Vince, and that's when I came back. Vince, he said, "Can you believe that son of a bitch fucking went to is in Madison Square Garden? He's there to show. He's good enough to wrestle all the other talent, but then he couldn't work at the Garden." You know, and I said, "Well, you know,"
Right.
I said that is what separates the men from the boys. You know, the guys that want, the guys that don't. So, I mean, he had his name stamped, you know, early on from Vince, and I mean, we were. I can remember me and Hunter trying to help him and stuff because we didn't like that stupid shit he was wearing.
Right.
And I can remember Hunter and, you know, all the Canada tours was me, Hunter, and PJ, and the other guys were somewhere else, riding together. And then Shane, Sonny, and Candido riding together, and we were all staying at the same places. And Hunter trying to, you know, draw him up different ideas and stuff like that.
Right.
Oh, and the Kid was with us too, but he was working with Kid, and he just couldn't have good matches. And I remember talking in the car and Kid going, "I just don't, you know, I don't get it, man." He goes, "I just heard so much about him." He goes, "And he just doesn't, you know." And I don't know if it was the gimmick,
right?
You know, that Shane couldn't figure out how to make it work or what. But I mean, with all due respect to him, I mean, he stunk when he was with us. He did what he did.
Right.
TitleMatchNetwork.com